The air was thick with the scent of ozone and the ringing echo of metal. Let's rewind a bit. This story doesn't start with chains. It starts with a victory so huge it fundamentally changed the world. Flash back to the Demon Lord's fortress. Swords, clash, explosions rock the foundation. And there's Aikido, the hero, surrounded by his so-called comrades. He fought like a man possessed, the only one who could go toe-to-toe with the Demon Lord. His fellow heroes, Flora, the saint, Juan Xylong, the marshal, Doug, the magician, Shinamani Nagi, the eastern hero, and Garen Rudolph, the military hero, were struggling, urging a retreat. But Aikido? He knew this was the end. He steadied his blade, muttered an apology, to whom we still don't know, and plunged his weapon into the Demon Lord, who let out a final disbelief-filled scream before vanishing. Silence. The world was saved. Aikido, breathing heavily, stood, victorious as his comrades rushed in, cheering his name. He gave that tired, genuine smile and declared the war was finally over. Peace had returned. And that, right there, is where the trouble begins. See, in these stories, the minute the hero slays the threat, they instantly become the new threat to the established order. Aikido was too strong. His overpowered abilities weren't just useful, they were politically destabilizing. The five Greatu nations could only trust a savior they could control, and Aikido was inherently uncontrollable. When the applause stops, the political backstabbing starts. Fast forward 1 month. The holy capital is throwing a victory banquet in his honor. 5th day of festivities, no less. Aikido, slumped on a sofa, groans about the exhausting pomp and circumstance. He hates formalities. Enter Flora, the beautiful saintess, who teases him about being tired from a mere party after conquering a Demon Lord's peak in a week. She reminds him that after tomorrow's joint victory ceremony, he'll be free. The mood is light. His comrades arrive, all smiles and backpats. Juan Xylong jokes about his liquor tolerance. Doug acknowledges his immense contribution. Shinamani Nagi praises his solo duel. And Garen Rudolph, ever the soldier, simply says they were following orders. Aikido, genuinely grateful, thanks them all for being his friends and fighting alongside him. He truly means it. He trusts them. He sees them as family. Later, tipsy and laughing, he's walking with Flora. He's thinking about his future. Unlike the others, he was an orphan, a reincarnated soul with nowhere to belong. He finally tells Flora his decision. He wants to travel the world, helping those still in need. And then comes the punchline, the one that will break your heart later. He nervously asks her to travel with him. She smiles sweetly and calls it a wonderful dream. This is textbook emotional manipulation. She knew exactly what was coming the next day, yet she gave him hope, painting a picture of a future she intended to burn to the ground. The next day, in the Grand Cathedral, Aikido is confused by the elaborate ceremony and the national treasure-grade armor he's forced into. Flora assures him it's all for show. He's the holy envoy, the messenger of God. As they walk to the altar, he tells her goodbye, reaffirming his dream of traveling the world with her. And then, the trap snaps shut. As Flora gives the command, the floor symbol glows. Massive mana channels into a ritual circle, and thick chains erupt from the ground, binding Aikido instantly. He cries out, shocked, realizing the immense power involved, a trap designed to neutralize his immense strength. He instinctively calls out to Flora, asking if she's safe. She doesn't answer with concern. She answers with a smirk. Flora walks closer, her saintess facade dropping like a cheap mask. Even while restrained, you're terrifying, Aikido, she remarks coldly. Doug appears, calling this fate. Flora confirms it. Everything is over. Their justification. Aikido had become too powerful, and now threatened the balance of the world. This is the ultimate cowardice. They didn't betray him because he was evil. They betrayed him because he was too good and too strong. The other heroes emerge from behind the pillars, each offering their flimsy excuse. Shinamani Nagi warns that favoring any nation would cause instability. Garen Rudolph mumbles about the 5 great nations making a pact, and Juan Xylong simply states Aikido had to be eliminated. It's political maneuvering hidden behind the shield of duty. They were afraid of his overpowered abilities, afraid of the unpredictable savior. Aikido roars, his rage breaking the chains with sheer, unadulterated power. He's overpowering the ritual. Doug screams in disbelief as the magic clerics collapse from the force of Aikido's escaping mana. But then, a blow from behind. Juan Xylong strikes him down with an explosive force, slamming him into a pillar. Restrained once more, broken and groaning, Aikido can only question why. Doug then reveals the true prize, a box containing a ring. He announces they will now transfer Aikido's 5 cheat skills into this artifact. The ritual begins. Doug channels the national treasures of the 5 great nations, activating a seal that pours energy into Aikido's body. The agony is beyond comprehension. Aikido screams as his nerves feel like they are being torn apart, burning from the inside out. His sweat reaches the ring, completing the ritual. Doug lifts the now glowing ring, confirming their success. Flora, pragmatic to the end, asks what to do with the hero. Doug proposes, claiming he returned to the heavens. Enraged and broken, Aikido finally breaks the last mental chain, declaring his former comrades and the 5 great nations his enemies. Mocked by Juan Xylong, and with Shinamani Nagi approaching with a sword for the final blow, Aikido starts laughing. Madness? Flora questions. No. Aikido reveals that despite the theft of his skills and the loss of his body, there is one thing they couldn't take: the rage that fuels his final desperate act. Pushing every last ounce of mana into his core, he declares he would take them all down with him. The explosion that followed was cataclysmic, a blinding blast of corrupted mana and debris that rocked the entire capital, turning the Grand Cathedral into a toxic cloud of dirt and lies. But let's be real. Betrayal isn't just about the physical act. It's about controlling the narrative. The true villains never die easily. As the dust settled, the heroes, Garen Rudolph, Doug, Flora, and the others, stood among the rubble, confirming their survival. Garen was already wearing the overpowered abilities ring, marveling at the sheer durability of Aikido's stolen power. Flora, ever the hypocrite, tried to play the peacekeeper. They had pulled off the perfect clean kill. The public? They were told the explosion was a divine aftermath, the glorious ascent of the hero to the heavens. The people believed the lie. The hero was gone. The lie remained. Meanwhile, out by a quiet river, a young mechanic named Iris spotted a body beneath the trees. She screamed, rushing to call her master. This was the beginning of Aikido's grueling second life. He was trapped in a feverish flashback. Voices of his betrayers echoed, "Too much power becomes evil itself." Everything was for the Empire. It was fate. He writhed, remembering how they had traveled, fought, and laughed together. Why? His trembling hand reached out, pleading with Flora, his Flora, telling her it had to be a mistake. Flora's final, cold smirk cuts through the confusion. Poor Aikido-sama. To think you never realized we were using you until the very end. That was the nail in the coffin. That moment stole more than his mana. It stole his belief in humanity. His heart sank, but his resolve hardened. He swore he would never forgive them. They had used him, taken everything, and now the 5 great nations were his enemies. He roared the vow that would define his future. I will kill them all. He jolted awake in a dimly lit, unfamiliar wooden room, a workshop. He was alive. He tried to move, but couldn't. His own voice sounded foreign, and he was racked with a searing agony that was somehow everywhere and nowhere. Iris and her master, Crest, rushed in, forcing bitter medicine down his throat to counteract the searing pain. Aikido, terrified and confused, glared at them, demanding to know where he was and who they were. Iris exploded at his lack of gratitude, but Crest calmly intervened, noting Aikido's expensive clothing and concluding he was a person of status. Crest revealed that Iris had rescued him, covered in blood, near the river. He introduced himself and Iris, making it clear this was just a workshop, not a hospital, and that Aikido should leave as soon as possible. Aikido, realizing they were not criminals and hadn't stolen anything, muttered a strained, "Thanks." But when Crest suggested writing a letter to arrange transport, Aikido hesitated. He had no one. He asked if he could stay just a little longer, promising to pay them back. Crest frowned, sensing something deeper than exhaustion. The moment of truth arrived. Crest stepped forward, grabbing the blanket. Iris tried to stop him, suggesting they wait until Aikido was more stable, but Crest insisted. He needed to know now. Aikido shouted, demanding to know what they were hiding. With one swift pull, Crest revealed the terrifying truth. Aikido stared down, stunned, his breath catching. His arms and legs were gone. His voice cracked. "No, no, my arms and legs, they're gone," Crest responded with grim finality. The damage was too severe. If we hadn't amputated them, you would be dead. This isn't just physical mutilation. This is the physical manifestation of betrayal trauma. The sudden, violent loss of his future, his trust, and his identity. And the worst part is the agony that follows. Aikido was overwhelmed, vomiting violently, screaming why he was the only one who had to suffer. He looked down at the empty space where his limbs should be, and whispered, "How the hell am I supposed to get revenge in this state?" He collapsed, begging them to just kill him. Crest, however, wasn't having it. He grabbed Aikido by the bandages and roared, "You damn idiot! After all the trouble we went through saving your life, don't throw it away!" Aikido screamed back, his pain turning to venom. "Shut up! What the hell do you know about my pain? Lose your arms and legs first, then preach to me from your high horse." That's when Iris stepped in. She slapped him hard, getting his attention, and grabbed his face. Meeting his gaze with fierce resolve, she urged him not to give up, pleading, "You're still alive. Don't give up on living." Aikido trembled, his voice low and bitter. "Yeah, I'm alive, sure. But in this body? What kind of life am I supposed to have now?" Crest crossed his arms, a thoughtful look replacing his anger. "This place is a workshop, right? Maybe it's not a coincidence I ended up here. Maybe it's fate." Aikido blinked in confusion and noticed, for the first time, Crest's own mechanical leg. Crest smiled faintly, revealing this was the workshop of a Magitech Prosthetics engineer. This was the beginning of his rebirth, the only path forward. Aikido's eyes were now blazing with a new, terrifying focus. He murmured the name, Magitech Prosthetics. Even before the Demon Lord's War, the world had been fractured by countless brutal conflicts. As magic and weapons evolved, the number of wounded soldiers surged. The ruling powers, desperate for manpower, demanded that engineers, like Crest, find a solution to put the broken back into battle. This technology wasn't born out of kindness. They were created to literally reuse broken soldiers. It's the ultimate dark reality of this world. Your body is just a tool, and if it breaks, they'll patch it with steel and mana so you can die on the next battlefield. This is the hell Aikido is now choosing to walk into, willingly trading his humanity for technology just to pursue his rage. Aikido asked Crest the only question that mattered. If he could have 4 limbs like Crest's own, would he be able to move freely again? Iris immediately shouted, calling the idea insane. Magitech Prosthetics require massive mana reserves and razor-sharp control. She warned that moving 4 at once was physically impossible, adding that some users end up bedridden for life because the limbs drain their energy just by being worn. Crest also warned of the astronomical cost, money they simply didn't have. Aikido looked down at the expensive accessories and rings he still wore, the gifts from his fake friends. He told them to sell everything. They were worth a fortune. Shouted his plea with all the emotion he had left, insisting he still had something he needed to do. He lowered his gaze, his resolve stunning both Crest and Iris. Crest sighed, finally giving in. Fine, I get it. Iris, however, snapped in disbelief. Are you out of your mind? Crest sat down, calm amidst the chaos. Iris, we saved him. That makes us part of this. If he's willing to risk losing everything again, it means something. Iris eventually relented, growling. Fine, I'll help with the surgery too. Since I was the one who found him, I'll take responsibility. Aikido smiled, a genuine flicker of light, and agreed that sounded fair. It was settled. But Crest gave one final warning. It will not be easy. Aikido met his gaze firmly. I'm ready. Iris, exasperated, stopped him one last time, demanding his own name. Aikido gave a sheepish smile, apologized, and said, My name is Aikido. The transformation began. First came the surgery, a nightmare of precision and agony. Metal fittings had to be embedded into the damaged areas to form a mana circuit. Crucially, no anesthesia could be used. He endured the searing pain of the fittings being implanted in all 4 limbs. They started with 1 limb at a time, the right arm, a slow, meticulous process to reduce the risk of rejection. The initial phase was a success. Crest examined the new training prosthetic and instructed Aikido to try moving it. Crest explained the process. He had to focus his mana into the corresponding pseudonerve within the prosthetic. Aikido closed his eyes, visualizing the movement. Crest urged him to start slow, just moving a single finger, using only a small amount of mana. This is the critical moment where Aikido's immense power clashed violently with the technology. He focused. He visualized the subtle movement. And suddenly, his entire arm launched backward with explosive force, smashing into the wall and leaving a gaping hole. He shouted in shock, confused that he only tried to move a finger, but the whole arm had responded. Crest screamed, Too much mana could kill us all! Crest stared at the broken training arm. What kind of sheer mana output was this? He concluded that standard-issue prosthetics were worthless against Aikido's power. He would have to craft a custom set. Aikido lit up with hope, but Crest quickly added he'd be charging extra, and Aikido would pay for the massive hole in the wall. Aikido groaned in defeat, realizing his path to recovery would be costly, both physically and financially. The path to acquiring his full Magitech Prosthetics was pure torment. He became totally reliant on Iris and Crest. He was bedridden, humiliated by his utter helplessness. He couldn't bathe, go to the bathroom, eat, move, or even scratch an itch on his own. When Iris tried to feed him, he snapped, grabbing the tray, insisting he didn't need to be treated like a dog. But the cruelest suffering came from inside his mind, a relentless, inescapable torture. It was the phantom pain, striking hardest at night, or when the rain fell. He would writhe, screaming into the silence, shouting that it burned. Pain surged in limbs that were no longer there, like lightning through bone, like glass underfoot. His brain misfired, generating pain signals with no physical source, and no medicine worked. There was no cure, only enduring. The phantom pain wasn't just agony. It was his new training partner. It was a constant, screaming voice, reminding him never to forgive them. He would channel every surge of that electric, phantom agony, clenching his teeth and vowing that he would kill them all, even if it was the last thing he did. Iris listened quietly from outside his room, the residual guilt of pushing the surgery so quickly still fresh. But Aikido's training continued relentless. He practiced fine motor skills with fake hands, trying to write. He was in a race against a memory, and he couldn't afford to lose. The seasons passed. 4 grueling years later, in a field, Iris tossed a basket of eggs into the air, joking that dinner depended on his catch. With astonishing speed and precision, Aikido caught all of them, even snagging one with his foot. He looked at his hand, murmuring that he'd finally gotten the hang of it. Controlling his Magitech body felt like a customized controller, more precise than his original flesh and blood. Aikido turned to Crest and asked the only question that mattered. Was he ready for the real limbs? Crest simply agreed. It was time. In the workshop, Crest revealed the complete, custom-built Magitech Prosthetics. Aikido threw a punch that shattered a wooden beam. The strength and responsiveness were insane. The limbs felt completely natural. Crest assigned Iris the final fine-tuning, teasing her that no one understood Aikido better than her. Watching them, Aikido clenched his metallic hand. After 4 long years, he finally had his fangs back. Let his betrayers enjoy their fragile peace, he thought, because soon they would regret everything they had done. A few months later, Aikido and Iris walked through town. They passed a large statue. Aikido paused. The armor, the pose, it was him. A man behind them explained it was the Heroism Church, a group founded by those the hero had saved, honoring him like a god. Aikido repeated the name, stunned. The man went on to say the Heroism Church had branches in all 5 great nations, but the man added a crucial detail. The nations were at war again. Monster attacks persisted, yet the 5 great nations were too busy fighting each other to help the borderlands. This is the absolute definition of hypocrisy. While the 5 great nations were secretly eliminating Aikido to seize his power, they publicly perpetuated his myth to maintain political control. They are literally using the idea of the dead hero as a propaganda tool, while the real hero is reduced to spare parts, watching the world he sacrificed everything for crumble. Aikido realized the peace he fought for was an illusion that shattered. The moment he was gone, he grabbed Iris's arm, telling her they should leave. He questioned silently whether he'd just been hiding in peace for 4 years like a coward, while the world burned. Suddenly, something rustled in the bushes. Monsters. They shouldn't have been that close to town. Iris hid behind him, saying she had a bad feeling. Aikido agreed and immediately lifted her onto his back, sprinting towards home. But they were too late. The monsters had reached the workshop first. Iris gasped. Crest was inside. Rage. The familiar, metallic rage surged through Aikido. He launched himself into the air, shouting at Iris to get out of the way. He clashed with the monsters, unleashing his fury, cutting them down with devastating precision. They rushed into the room and found Crest. Aikido's eyes darkened. He should have realized it sooner. These people, the 5 great nations, always took everything from him. They had taken his limbs, his power, and now they had taken the man who gave him his future.
All right, guys, that's where we're slamming the brakes on this brutal recap. We've seen the betrayal, the loss of his body, and the tragic death of Crest. This series excels at emotional engagement. Watching Aikido lose everything makes his revenge feel totally inevitable. Where does he turn next? Who will be the first of the 5 great nations to feel his custom-built wrath? Let me know your predictions in the comments. Smash that like button and subscribe. Go read the original. Work to support the author.